Hey everyone, it's Anwar over at Cobblers Plus, and thank you for joining us today again on our daily video. Today we're talking about brushes, so come join us and check out what we got for you. Now I see a lot of questions a lot of people are asking all the time, brushes for shoes. First things first, let's get it kind of out of the way. Brushes are a must. If you're not going to be caring for your shoes with polishes, creams, waxes, or any of that kind of stuff, you definitely want to have some brushes. They're a must-have to own brushes, just because the fact that, one, it's going to help restore a lot of shines on if their shoes were professionally shined by somebody, if they're using a good product like Saphir, for example. Just a little bit of that friction from that brush will restore the shine significantly. The other thing is it'll help kind of brush off any dust, dirt, and debris that may get kind of stuck and attached to the shoe. So I highly recommend, if you have a good collection of shoes, definitely make sure you have at least two brushes. And why I say two brushes is one is for your darker colors and the other one's for your lighter colors. If you want to get into maintaining your shoes more and more with different polishes and creams and waxes and all that kind of stuff, eventually you may build up a little bit of a collection. So I highly recommend, that's one of the very first things that you got to get, along with obviously shoe horns and shoe trees. A set of these horsehair brushes are a must-have. Now, as far as brushes go in general, which one should you get? Which one do you need? Which one do we recommend? Obviously, it really depends on what kind of tasks you're trying to accomplish with it. There are a number of different variants out there. There are different types of hairs. Like these ones here that I have all around me, these are all horsehair brushes, so that means that they use either the mane or the tail or a combination of the two. Typically, horsehair, it's kind of a little more versatile. It has a lot more uses and a lot more purposes for it. Even on our shine machines in the back with the buffing wheels that spin really fast, those are horsehair as well. They work phenomenally on a number of different types of leathers. I mean, you could technically, if they're a clean enough brush, you could technically even brush off your suedes and nubucks to get some of that dust and dirt off of. Obviously, at that point, I don't recommend transitioning from a pair of shoes that is smooth leather, where it may have waxes and polishes on it that will rub off onto the horsehair after a period of time. If you're just buffing it up every now and then, not using your own polishes or anything like that, you're still going to have a transfer of dye pigment and some of those waxes and minerals that may be in the polish. So just on a new brush, I would recommend. That's it. For your suedes and nubucks, there are other brushes that are nylon, steel, bristle, brass bristle as well. There's a number of different ones, but we'll talk about suede in particular later on down the road. For now, something that's a little bit easier to maintain is smooth leather. Your box leather, your corrected grain, your full grain leather, shell cordovans, things like that. Anything that's got more of a smoother texture, even exotics like these Lucchese's that we've had up here. Obviously you've seen them forever, but even that too, I mean, a number of exotics as well, that if they have kind of a smoother finished texture, not sueded obviously, just brushing them over will help extend the life expectancy, because certain dust and dirt, it kind of clogs up the pores, and then you mix it in with all the polishes and waxes in there, it kind of gunks up and stuff, and then it creates problems. But in general, obviously, I would highly recommend, if you're sticking just two brushes or even 10 brushes, one for each of your colors or whatever you may have, horsehair is phenomenal. As far as the brushes go, you can see right here, we've got a couple of different ones. We've got some larger 9-inch ones. These are called the professional ones, and some websites, they say they're the 10-inch. They're not really technically 10-inch. They're more of a 9-inch. And 9-inch is the bristles themselves. It's a little bit shorter on the handle at about 8 inches, but the bristles, the hairs kind of stand out. They flare out a little bit more. This one is from Four Seasons. This is one that we've been using for quite some time. Very great brush. And then there are the smaller ones that are 7-inch right there. Again, a little bit smaller on the handle area because it kind of flares out where the hairs are. Now these guys, obviously you can tell there are light and dark colored ones. This is to help identify. There's not one that's better for the other or one that's specific type of, density or something like that. It's strictly just for the color. If you want two lighter colored ones and eventually the dye pigment transfers over and starts giving like a reddish shade if you're using it on a red shoe or whatever it may be. But typically they make these in a light color or dark color. It might be kind of a lighter brown color than what this one is. This one is actually a very dark shade of brown here if you really wanted to get technical about it. But that's what the difference is between them. That's it. It's just the color of the hairs to help identify for your light colors, for your dark colors. That's it. But back to the sizes real quick. For sizing, obviously, that's really what you're comfortable with. With a larger brush like this one here, you're going to have a better surface area, and so there's a smaller chance that you may accidentally hit the wood here. Say you have a nice finished pair of shoes with a beautiful shine on it. You got to do a final touch-up, or if you need to just touch it up every now and then, you may accidentally nick the corner of the smaller ones. Again, it really varies on each individual. If you're comfortable enough not nicking it, which again is probably like 1 out of 20 people, or even in your case it may happen like once in 1,000 times where you're brushing a pair of shoes and you accidentally hit it with the wood, you can do it with these larger ones too. It happens. I'm sorry to say, there's no preventing that. It can happen to anyone. It can happen to a professional that's done millions of shoes over their lifetime, and finally on their 1,000,000th and first pair they accidentally hit it with that wood handle. It happens, okay? But there are ways of correcting it, which we'll eventually get down the road. Sorry, I've got long hair right now. I need a haircut desperately. Just can't seem to find the time for it. But that kind of helps you identify as far as sizing. Also, grabbing it too. Which one's more comfortable for you? Is it easier for you to hold the larger one to get good friction going, buffing it fast? Or is it better to hold the smaller one? That's up to you to decide, whichever one you prefer. Also, the other thing, are you going to take them ever traveling? There are some that are even smaller than this that you can find from other brands, such as Kiwi as well. Sorry, I thought I had the Kiwi brush somewhere here, but it turns out I don't. I gave that one up to my 3-year-old son, Vlad, who loves to come in and says, shoes, shoes. He wants to help shine up some shoes, so I give him some from the pile there that we're just kind of experimenting with and just let him brush them up. But Kiwi makes a smaller one as well, so if you want one that's even smaller than this, I typically recommend, this is kind of the smallest you'd want to go when it comes to buffing up a pair of shoes. Anything smaller than that, it's not much of a good surface area, and grip wise, even if you have really, really small hands, it's hard to grab it to get good friction going. So I recommend 7-inch as kind of the minimum. In other words, anything smaller than that can become a little bit more of a challenge and hassle, in other words. But that's really up to you to decide which direction you want to go with on these. Again, this one does great for travel size. Maybe you only need to take one of them, or if you want to take both or whatever. Or maybe you don't at all, just grab, at the very least, grab one of these shine chamois just really quick. They're the microfiber in it. Just really quick, buff them up. There's these ones, and then, which I guess I don't have one up here either, but the Saphir ones. You could always use those too. But that's just kind of what I recommend, if you're not taking any brushes with you. The other types of brushes out there are obviously these Dobbers. This one's heavily used here. It turns out I don't have these 4-season ones at the moment, so I just had to grab one from the back that we really used up heavily. But these guys, again, like the name implies, they're called a dauber brush. That means you kind of daub anything, any kind of creams or conditioners or polishes, and that helps you apply it. I tend to do that a lot of times when the pair of shoes has a lot of broguing on it, meaning it has those little holes or a certain pattern or a weaving pattern, or it's heavily textured, like a certain exotic. Sometimes ostrich too has a lot of quail on it, the little bumps on there, or if it's an exotic leather like snakeskin or shark or anything like that. These daubers come in handy for application on creams and polishes. I highly recommend it just because you can really get into those nooks and crannies, and then if you accidentally have some stuck in there, once you kind of wipe off the brush on a rag or something, you can get in there and kind of dig out some of that cream so it doesn't dry and look like there's just a white mark there or something. But that's what these daubers are for. We've got the 4 seasons ones as well. Actually at the moment we have these junk ones. I still don't have the 4-season ones back in stock. These garbage. I really hate those things. I went to reach them. Somebody put them back up on the front shelf. I went to reach. I thought they were the Four Seasons. I'm like, no, there's another one. Ugh. Okay. Anyways, but that's what those are for there. Now, moving on to some that are a little bit harder to find. We've got some Star brushes here. Now, for those of you who don't know, Star was one of the best brush makers out there for many years. Now, some of you also are wondering, should I get that, $50 or $60 horsehair brush? You honestly don't need it, okay? I've had some of these Star brushes that I actually have at home. I don't have them here with me today, but I've had some of these Star brushes and even these Four Seasons ones, because Four Seasons been around for quite some time also. It's kind of a generic brand, but it looks like they've done the exact same build as what the Star company has done. And these things have lasted for decades. I mean, a very long time. I love some of those old brushes from Star. These Four Seasons ones, I mean, at our shop, we use brushes a lot. So in other words, if you're somebody who's just a shoe enthusiast or you love taking care of your own shoes just on your own, if these Star brushes last us, 5-6 years, times that by maybe about 3 times as long for you as somebody who's not a professional in this industry, okay? If a Star brush has lasted us for decades, I'm talking about 20 years. I have a couple of brushes that are over 20 years old from Star, and they work phenomenally. Now, obviously, there may be some little bristles missing here and there, but they still work very well, actually. That nice, beautiful wax buildup like this one, it looks like it got touched up a little somewhere. That wax actually gives kind of like this perfect buildup where almost like a transition between the waxes that you apply onto the shoes and the waxes from the brushes, and when they meet together and that friction mixes all up, it just works. I don't know what it is. I can't tell you. I'm not a scientist. I don't know on the molecular level when it comes to that particular feature about it, but those older brushes, they work great if they've been in use for quite some time. But nothing wrong with the new brush either. We'll touch more on new brushes in general. But talking about price points, these guys are averaging about anywhere between $10 to maybe 25 at most. That's plenty enough there, and that really depends on the size. Obviously, some of these Star brushes you might be able to still find somewhere, but they're asking for premium prices because everyone knows that the brand is no longer in business. They're out of commission, unfortunately. So next best one we've been using is Four Seasons, and these things have been great. There are a few other ones out there that maybe us here in Colorado we don't know about, but your local cobbler, if you're way out on the East Coast or on the West Coast or someone out in those general areas, you may know those brushes are something a little more than Four Seasons. You'll ask your cobbler and they have never heard of it because it's a smaller company. It's a more generic, in other words. So, but Star, generally almost every cobbler knew it. Star also made these awesome large brushes here for cleaning. Some of you, if you watch Jason Dornstar's videos, he loves these brushes for using with saddle soap. These were phenomenal. These are basically oversized version of these Dobber brushes here. Now, they were great for cleaning and scrubbing and everything. Unfortunately, because Star's out of business, nobody has been making these at all anymore. So please don't ask. If you see me having one, if you see Jason or Marcus or anyone else that has them, I highly doubt they're going to give these up, okay? Because I only have a couple of these, and I think actually Jason may have already taken and claimed one of mine. So I think this might even be my last one. I'd have to double check and see. Jason may have stolen it. But anyways, but for us doing it in the professional line, basically the larger ones work great for us. I mean, if you're doing it at home or something, even us as well, sorry, I'm kind of babbling here, us as well, we had to start using the Dobber brushes in place too. Some saddle soap on there, some water, and then scrub it and let it foam up. These ones work great too. It's just that it was a lot easier when you're doing 10 pairs lineup or something when you use the larger ones. Now moving on to one of the other kind of well-known brushes that some of you may know if you're especially a hobbyist or enthusiast of working on shoes, or even if you're a professional, are these little toothbrush looking style ones right here. This one is from Star as well. It's a little bit obviously harder to find, pretty much impossible at this point too, but there are alternatives. I think Four Seasons currently is making some as well, but I have to double check that because we have a bunch of old ones that we've been using for some time, and we haven't had to restock on them quite yet. We don't really retail them too much either. I probably should, considering all of you out there that are watching this video. A number of you are starting to become more educated about things and probably are going to start requesting for these guys. But these ones in particular they have multiple purposes. In other words, words. One that we like to use for them on the cobbler side of things is edging. Ours sit inside of pots that hold not glue but edge ink, edge dressing, something that we can apply this edge coat around. So that's what we use these for. Some cobblers use Dobbers as well, but we like these because it kind of gets into certain nooks and crannies a little bit better. The other thing is that it's great for cleaning out these welt areas right on the inside of a number of shoes, right in here, boots as well. Helps get in there and clean it out if you're trying to apply any kind of waxes, which I like to do sometimes to give a little bit of love and attention to that welt sometimes. It's great for applying with these guys. I mean, you can technically use one of these rounded ones, but again, they're rounded and they're actually a little bit softer bristled. Typically this one's all hard and dried up already, so it's probably going in the trash can. But these ones, brand new, they come a little bit stiffer, so you can really get in there nicely, whether you're applying the waxes or just cleaning out the welt area. So that's what these ones are for. Obviously, you don't need to get the Dobber. You don't need to, well, you wouldn't be able to get one of these anyways. No one is making anything even remotely close, even a cheap version yet. But in other words, you don't really need all of these ones here. If you're just starting out, or if you're just wanting to at least every now and then upkeep the look and appearance of everything, just one of these either 7 or 9-inch ones here will be plenty enough for you. Once you start getting more detailed type of work and everything like that, where you want to really expand your horizon, in other words, and see how far you could really push your skill level or just have fun with it. A lot of people love shining shoes nowadays. I've noticed that. We have one guy that's been coming in frequently, cool guy, Mark, you know who you are. The guy just got into shoes recently. Now he's buying up used shoes, even if they're not his size, just because he wants to shine them up and resell them. He doesn't even really care about the money too much. It seems like he's just having more fun shining the shoes. So if you're new to it, give it a shot. You might enjoy it. Now, one other thing I'll point out real quick. The thing is with the brushes, obviously they're not just for shoes and boots. You can use them on purses too. If you're using this guy right here, I just did the video on that, the leather lotion from Saphir, or if you're using Big 4 or something else on a purse, a belt, a jacket, any of those products that any of these products that you use on any of those items, you still want to kind of buff them up afterwards a little bit. It kind of helps bring out more of a shine, even if the product doesn't have waxes in it, kind of like Big 4, which again, I don't have one up here, but Big 4, for example, it's one of those products that says there are no waxes in it. You still want to kind of, just brush it over, because that friction kind of helps, melt whatever ingredients it may have, whether it's a wax mineral, if it's something else that's a mystery product in there, or item or ingredient in there, it still helps bring out a little bit more of a shimmer, not a full-blown shine if you're just using a cream, for example, but you still want to do that. A brush will definitely help. The other thing is, if you accidentally put a little bit too much on somewhere, it'll kind of help brush it out, take some of that excess off, and just be a little bit easier, other than trying to have to wipe it all off immediately. Sometimes, again, these products here are actually fairly beneficial. After all, this is hair follicles. You got to think about your hair on your head. You put shampoo in there, so all those products that get in here are actually fairly good for you, in other words. But that's completely up to you how far you want to push your brushes. Which brings me to my next point, basically, as far as the hairs. If they're falling out, obviously when you get a brand new brush, this one's a brand new one here, you're gonna have little strands. You might not be able to see it, but little strands like that just pop out. You got to remember that these things they're hairs. One, they're not 100% durable, like they're not gonna never break. They're paracord or something else. No, they're hairs. These are natural fibers. They're gonna break, they're gonna fall apart. The other thing is that they basically take a long hair, in other words, like this, and then they run a staple right in the middle of it, and then these hairs just fold up like that, and there you go, and they're holding up. And in the middle at the bottom, there's a little staple that holds it down. Sometimes that staple can give out or something too, or maybe it's just not in there all the way, and then some of the hairs just pull out. Do not get frustrated. Every single brush, I don't care if you're spending $10 or if you're spending $100. I don't even know which brush is $100. I think I might know who might have one, or maybe a couple of companies that may have them for $100, but there is no need for a $100 brush, because it's going to do the exact same thing this brush here for under $20. Well, What are these guys even going for? I don't even remember. I think they were. I have no price tags. But anyways, 20 or under, basically, they're going to do the exact same thing. They're all going to have little hairs coming out. They're all going to kind of come undone here and there, or even after extended use, brand new. It doesn't matter. You're going to have hairs coming out. I don't care what anyone says that theirs is more superior. Obviously, for example, Saphir, they have their own brushes too. They have great brushes. I love them. They're probably closer to these stars, I would say. But for the price point, they are kind of up there in price. So having just a little bit better of a brush than, say, a Four Season or one of those other generic ones, I just don't know yet if I'd be willing, even for my own personal collection, willing to get that many brushes for a number of different shoes and stuff like that, because that's all that you're really paying for is the quality build difference. But hey, you know, that's completely up to you. If you want to go for those Saphir ones, I probably will regardless, just because I love Saphir in general and I'd love to promote them more and more. But for the time being, since we're dealing with mostly Four Seasons anyways, and if you're somebody that's not wanting to spend, you know, for 5 brushes a few $100s basically, or even a couple of them, just like 2 or 3, you know, you're still spending well over $100. In other words, where for that same price you can get pretty much a brush for every color in this one. Hey, maybe you might have 2 Saphir brushes and 3 of these Four Seasons ones. You never know. Maybe you'll have multiple brushes. That's what I have, is multiple different brands. But anyways, that kind of helps explain that side of it for you. Now, the last thing we'll talk about is maintenance on these brushes. Now, maintenance is completely up to you. Like I mentioned, you know, having certain products, you know, kind of absorbed into your brushes is actually beneficial. Certain creams and lotions like this one here, it's actually beneficial. Again, you condition your hair, right? You know, you put shampoo in there, you put conditioner in there, you rinse and repeat, blah, blah, blah. You go on, and you still wash it out, so it's fine, but you still have a little bit of those oils left over. Your head naturally creates oils as well. Well, these hairs are off of the animal, so natural oils are no longer a thing for these. So introducing a little bit of natural oils, perfectly fine. You don't need to worry about having to clean it. Now, obviously, you know, after an extended period of time, once there's too much wax buildup, you may want to replace it. It's a lot easier and a lot more effective to replace the brushes than have to deal with cleaning them. Obviously, for us, it's a different story in the back. Some of these Dobber brushes get really messy and we have to clean them often, but typically what I really recommend with at least the Dobber brushes or any of these other ones is quite literally grab a rag, which I have one way under here, just kind of a cleaner than this one obviously, or even just a clean surface area, and just kind of just brush it over and wipe off some of that on there. Ooh, there's a lot of dust still flying off these, shows that they're new. But same thing with these, just kind of brush in a circular motion. That's all you have to do really for maintenance on your brushes. Don't get all crazy about, so I need to put them in the sink and soak them. You're actually going to cause way more damage getting them soaked. This is wood on these handles. Even if you have a plastic one too, you know, you don't want to damage it. So don't soak them, don't drench them, don't run them through a dishwasher, whatever you put it in. Don't do it, please. If you want to save those brushes for as long as possible, just don't do that. Worst of the worst case scenario, grab some of your Saphir Reno Matte right here. Yes, Saphir Reno Matte. Not acetone, not alcohol, not turpentine, or any of those other things, because those ones are a lot stronger. They are much stronger solvents. Where this is designed specifically to remove polishes, certain silicones, and other things that may be stuck in your brushes. So if you really, really, and I mean really, want to clean your brushes, and I can't stress this enough, that this is like borderline of don't do it type of thing. That's what I'm saying. Apply some of this onto the rag, not onto the brush, onto the rag, and then start, you know, brushing against the rag. Brush against the rag. That's it. Do not put it on the brush. Do not soak your brushes. Do not do any of that kind of stuff, because even though there's a staple down in here, there's still a small fine amount of adhesive in there to bind everything together, and you're going to deactivate those adhesives, and it's just going to start falling apart also, because the wood is going to absorb a certain amount of that moisture, whether it's from the solvents that you're trying to use to clean with, or it's the water or the soap or whatever you decide to use. That wood is going to tighten up all the pore structures in there. Well, whatever the fibers of the wood, they're going to tighten up really densely because they absorbed all that moisture, and then as soon as they dry out, they release more than it originally had, and that's just going to make the wood even drier, causing the adhesive to come apart a little bit. It's going to cause the staple to loosen out of there, or if it's a nail or a tack, whatever they use in certain brushes, it's going to cause more problems. So please, final answer I'm going to tell you, don't mess with your brushes outside of after using them for an application. If you used any kind of polishes or creams or waxes, just brush them up against the rag, clean off whatever, because you're just using the tips here. You're not getting way down in here with the creams and polishes up here towards the wood. Eventually, you know, maybe you have a certain buildup, but at that point, when it's got so much of a buildup, if it's actually bothering you, you may want to reconsider how much polish or cream you're using on your products, and just kind of be a little bit gentler in the future of using products, or even replace the brush completely. I mean, you know, at $10, $20, $30, $40, whatever it is that you spent, how much time are you going to put into actually properly cleaning this? And if you end up messing up the cleaning process because you decided to take a shortcut or did something else to it, you may end up having to throw away the brush anyways because of user error or cleaning error, in other words. So that's that. I just want to answer that once and for all. Clean the brushes if you'd like to, but do it in just a general maintenance type of way of just brushing it up against a rag. It's easy. You're going to be throwing away a rag, old t-shirt, or whatever you're using down the road anyways, because you were using it for application of polish or whatever else. But the brushes you're trying to have last for a while. That's what we did. That's how we had our brushes last for decades. Just that basic little bit. Some of those brushes I actually have that, you know, obviously they're missing some bristles and everything. They were never really actually maintained. It's just I used them frequently. That's all. I've been using them since I was a kid, okay? These brushes are almost as old as I am, basically. Pushing nearly 3 decades. So, hey, you know, that just comes to show. Just a little bit of light cleaning, or if you're using them frequently, you don't really need to do anything. Just the expectation of transfers of polishes from one shoe to another. If you're going to be doing a lot of shoes, have a brush for your black, have a brush for your dark brown. You could probably mix the two, they're not too bad. But medium brown, definitely I recommend its own brush. Light brown and tan will have their own brush together. That's kind of the breakdown. I should probably make a little list of that. Might make it easier for some of you. Comment down below if you want me to do that. Do you want me to go through and make an entire list of which brush combinations match with which color and stuff like that? At least for the basic colors and generic ones. I could do that, I guess, if I find the time, but I'll make it a priority if you guys request it. So comment down below if you want that. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Any other questions or comments, comment down below. Go to our website, CobblersPlusCO to get in touch with us. All of our contact information is on there. If you're local here in the Denver area, feel free to stop on by. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be, you know, part of this group here and enjoying all the videos that we're posting. Obviously, I'm having some technical issues lately with trying to post. Computer's been a little fritzy, so be patient with me. I'm trying to get it all taken care of so I can actually continue posting every single day for you, because I know some of you are loving it and some of you might just be annoyed with me, so you're skipping every other video, but I'm not upset. But anyways, regardless, thank you for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, and we'll see you next time.